This is the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. Here's Robert Kiyosaki.
Hello. Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. They're a very special friend. Since 1980, or 42 years, we've been friends.
That's right.
His name is Blair Singer. And his skill set is crucial for any entrepreneur. And he teaches people how to sell. But more than selling is also leadership. You know, if you're an entrepreneur, you have to lead. If you're an entrepreneur, you have to raise capital. If you're an entrepreneur, you have to learn how to handle people, handle rejection, handle upset, handle damage. And the reason most people don't become entrepreneurs is, namely, 90 out of 100 won't make it anyway. The failure rate amongst people wanting to be entrepreneurs is so high, it's incredible. So when people come up to me, I got this hot new product and all this, I say, can you sell it? And that's what Blair and I have been selling, teaching, presenting from stage. How hard have we practiced over the years?
Well, we've been unreasonable about that. We used to lock ourselves in a room with about a dozen other people and practice. And it would get pretty hot. Our strategy was try to throw the person off on stage and fluster him. Yeah. And it got almost to fisticuffs sometimes. But we were ruthless about practicing.
Yeah, we were learning how we could sell pretty well by then one-on-one, because you worked for Burroughs.
Right.
And I worked for Xerox. And we both chose Burroughs and Xerox because they had sales training. Right?
Exactly, yeah. So knowing that it was a critical skill and not knowing what the heck to do, found the best companies to train us. Yeah.
And then my best friend at Xerox, he just sold his business for $2 billion.
Larry.
And he didn't go to school either, you know what I mean? But he can sell. And so we were both applying for Xerox. I just came out of the Marine Corps in 74, and Larry was just coming back from a Mormon mission. He was a Mormon missionary. And he had the highest conversion rates of Catholics to Mormonism. Now, you know the Irish race. Catholicism and Irish are like bread and butter, man. They are tight. So for Larry to go into Northern Ireland, home of the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, heartland of Catholicism, and convert hardcore Irish Catholics into Mormonism, people have no idea what that means.
That's sales. That's true sales.
And so Larry and I were both applying to Xerox at the same time, and Xerox gives us the same BS. Larry never finished school, and all I had was a Bachelor of Science degree. They said, where's your master's degree? And so I looked at the guy, the sales hirers in Honolulu. I said, what the hell does a master's degree have to do with the ability to sell? And of course, he had a master's degree because he was going to work up the corporate ladder. And I said, look, sweetheart, I've just been flying a helicopter against machine guns. And if I can do that, I can knock on some stupid doors and sell some Xerox machines. So Larry at the same time was being hired by Xerox. And they said, you don't have a master's degree. And Larry says, this is my record here. I have the highest conversion rate of Catholics in Northern Ireland to Mormonism, the highest ever. And so the sales manager says to him, what difference does that make? He says, look, if I can sell Jesus, I can sell anything. So Larry became number one in office products, and I became number one in copiers. He just sold his business for $2 billion, but we can sell.
That's right.
And so Blair and I would practice selling. We get together in this room with about some other wannabes who want to pitch from stage, because selling one-on-one is one thing, but pitching from stage is a whole nother experience here, right?
That's right, yeah. So you take one-on-one, which is relatively safe, and now you expose yourself to 10 people, 20 people, 100 people, thousands of people. And so the fear of rejection, which is the big thing that holds people back, becomes amplified until you get past the threshold.
And the funny thing is, so Blair and I are practicing pitching. We're selling a seminar at the time of our friend's seminar. It wasn't even our seminar. We just needed to practice.
Right.
So we practiced selling the seminar. We fly all the way over to Maui to do a seminar to pitch this seminar.
That's right. What a disaster.
How many people showed up?
2. And only 2 people. We had 100 chairs set up in the room. We were all primed. We had practiced so much. And the reason we did it together is because neither of us had ever really done a public presentation like it before. So we figured it was safety in numbers. So we set it up.
We fly from Honolulu to Maui, rent a car, hotel room, all this stuff.
The Intercontinental Hotel.
We rent the hotel room all out of our paycheck.
That's right. And 2 people showed up. That's right. And one was actually in the wrong place. He thought it was a real estate seminar. So he left. We never even did the program. We took the guy to the bar. We figured if we get him drunk enough, we could sell him the program. And that didn't work.
And that's how we started.
That's right. That's right.
So it's been a journey. And now you come into Rich Dad, you teach us how to sell and all this. It's really communication. Okay. And if you can't communicate, you don't sell.
That's right.
And for me, the reason I learned how to sell was like, I was getting out of the Marine Corps. I was flying helicopters, and my rich dad asked me, he says, I went to see my poor dad. My poor dad says, go back to school, get your master's, get your PhD. And I wind up like him, PhD, poor, helpless, and desperate. I'm not going to be like my poor dad. So I go see my rich dad. I said, what should I do now? I'm about to get out of the Marine Corps. I was like 27 years old. He says, I want to be an entrepreneur like you. He goes, well, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to sell. I said, no, I don't want to sell. Because my poor dad, be a PhD, academic elite type of guy, Stanford, University of Chicago, Northwestern. He says, salesmen are scum. So in our family, the culture was salesmen are scum. So for me to go home to poor dad and say, I'm going to become a salesman, I might as well say I'm going to go work with the devil, So that's how we got together.
That's right.
You're working in a surf shop and all that.
That's right. That's right. And that was our first beginning in moving into what we now call the cash flow quadrant. We started as E's, learning how to sell, and then move over to the B and the I.
Right. So sales, if you're going to be, or it's really communication, is your number one skill as an entrepreneur.
Right.
So your first book was Sales Dogs. It was Little Voice Mastery. Why is Little Voice Mastery so important?
Well, Little Voice Mastery is important because the toughest sale of all is you selling you to yourself.
Yeah.
You don't really have to worry too much about customer objections. It's your objections after pounding on door after door and being yelled at, sent away, told you're scum, to be able to still stand up and keep selling, because as an entrepreneur one day, same thing's going to happen. You're going to get knocked down and you need to stand up. And the toughest sell of all is selling to yourself.
Right. So we had to, at Xerox, I had to go in 10 times a day. Holy mackerel. By the second no, it's painful. You don't get past the secretary. It's painful. So I go to the lunch wagon and eat, and then I go and knock on 2 more doors and go to the lunch wagon and eat. I gained so much weight. Trying to drown the pain of rejection, right?
That's right. That's right.
And that's what most people hate.
Right. And they back off.
Right.
They back off. And that's the mistake.
I say, oh, the product sucks, or my sales manager is stupid and all this. I did all those things. But one day I wanted to talk to my rich dad, and he goes, how's it going? I said, terrible. How's your sex life? Terrible. I said, you can't sell. And I said, what's wrong? He goes, how many sales calls do you make a day? And I do my best to get to 10, but generally it was 4. If I got 4 knocks on the door, I was courageous. I'd rather fly back in Vietnam. And so finally, Rich Dad looked at me and says, the reason you're failing is because you're not failing fast enough. And that was one of the most priceless lessons, because academics like my poor dad, PhD, failure means you're unsuccessful.
That's right.
As an entrepreneur, the more you fail, more successful you become, because we learn from our mistakes. So that's one of the reasons we have so much trouble today, is because academics are kind of running the liberal elite part of our world, and we're not America anymore. We're just a bunch of wimps.
Right.
Kids who go to school and you trigger them, you can't say anything to them, or you insult them. I mean, it's really sick. Well,
yeah, because they haven't faced the rejection. They've been protected from the rejection. They've been protected, like we don't want to hurt their self-esteem and all that stuff. But in learning to sell, that becomes a non-issue, because you've learned that it's somebody else's point of view. It's not you. Remember, the toughest sell of all is you selling you to you.
to stop eating lunch and go back, knock on the door again.
That's right. So you get a whole group of people coming out of school that never have that experience and told not to have that experience. And so it's no mistake that they can't handle the rigors of what life throws at them.
So they get stuck in the E and the S quadrant, or self-employed. Right. They don't make it to the B and the I just because selling. So that's one of the biggest lessons of all, and that's why Blair and I have traveled the world with Kenny and Tom. And we teach Tom Wheelwright, our CPA, also was a Mormon missionary. And he can sell.
And he can sell. That's
he can
right.
sell.
You don't see too many accountants that can, but he can.
He can sell, and so it becomes like the number one skill of entrepreneurship. So and by the way, this here I just got from my friend Trina. This is the Marine Corps flag. And I love it because I learned courage in the Marine Corps. I also learned discipline. But then I had to sell. I could shoot people, but I couldn't sell them anything. Anyway, so it's all been a good developmental program here. So what is your latest book here now, Summit?
Yeah, the latest book is called Summit Leadership. Summit Leadership, about taking your whole team to the top.
And what's the big deal?
Well, the big deal is that if you're going to go from the S-Quadrant as solo, self-employed, and go into the B-Quadrant, where you're going to require teams and systems, then that's a way different skill set that's just not taught in school, right? And so the lessons, the reason it's called Summit Leadership is because I've spent better part of my career working with entrepreneurs all over the world, helping them get from the S to B, overcome obstacles, get their dreams, all that stuff. And about 10 years ago, I had the opportunity to go to Tanzania, Africa with my son, which is another whole story. But I went there with him. And in 7 days on the mountain, what blew my mind was that all the lessons of being an entrepreneur, going from S to B, the trials, the tribulations, the exhilarations, the depressions, all got compressed into a 7-day experience.
Yeah, I've seen some of the people you've taken up that mountain. They don't have feet when they come back. Because people think, well, going up is hard. Coming down is harder.
It's not that bad. Well, coming down is harder. Yeah,
it's really interesting about climbing.
Yeah, one of the lessons is that getting to the top is only halfway. So everybody goes, I just want to get to the top. I want to get to the top. And people get to the top and they have a hard time getting down, to your point.
Right.
So the preparation is key to the whole thing.
So your book Summit is what you've learned about business and life climbing Kilimanjaro 10 times.
That's right.
You've never invited me for some reason, but
because you ain't going. That's why.
Well, pilots fly over mountains. They don't climb mountains.
I hear you.
So what are some of the key points you would like to pass on to people who are ready to become entrepreneurs? But look, if you can't, like I always say, I'm not a best writing author, but a best selling author. And I know I suck as a writer. People say, you don't know what you're talking about, man. I said, yeah, but I sold more books than you, idiot, and because sales equals income, right?
That's right.
So if, we do a little promo video for your little summit thing, but communication is right above cash flow.
That's right.
Because if you can't sell, there's no income.
That's right. I mean, if you're trying, the BI triangle talks about mission, team, leadership.
Right.
If you got a mission, but you can't sell it, you're dead in the water, okay? If you get a team and you can't sell them on what it is they need to do, how to take the next step, you're dead in the water again.
Right.
And what happens is if you can't raise capital, you're unfunded and you're dead in the water again. So as you said, in order to master the BI triangle, sales is critical.
But it's leadership, really.
Right.
Really, 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 it's leadership. And that's one of the reasons, not to toot my own horn, but I went to the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy in New York. And every so often we be rated the #1 school for leadership. And some of the schools in competition were Naval Academy, Air Force Academy, West Point, Coast Guard Academy. And Kings Point's a little dinky little school, one of the smallest federal academies, like West Point or Annapolis, would pop up as the #1 school in leadership. And when we come back, I'm going to be talking to you about a different type of leadership. Because you have, again, from the Cash Flow Quadrant, book number 2 in the Rich Dad series, E, S, go to school, become an employee, you become an E, your mindset goes there. Or if you're smart, go to school and become a doctor, and you become an S, self-employed. But the problem with that is you're self-employed, and you pay the highest taxes. So it's really quite interesting how going to school traps people. So when we come back, I'll be going into one of the secrets I learned at the academy, but most people don't see about leadership. We'll be right back.
Inflation is at a 40-year high. The Fed is tightening up, and top firms predict returns under 5% for the next decade. No wonder a recent JP Morgan report declared alternative assets are no longer optional. And of all the platforms for alternative investing, there's one that's a no-brainer. It's called Masterworks. Masterworks has solidified itself as the platform for investing in contemporary art. You can access exclusive investments from names like Banksy and Picasso for just a fraction of what billionaires pay to diversify their portfolios. Since 2020, Masterworks has sold 3 paintings, with each returning over 30% net IRR to investors. And their new offerings usually sell out in hours. 30%, that's pretty wild. If you want to get in early, go to masterworks.io, create an account, check out what they have, and invest in their offerings. And our subscribers get to skip their wait list at the special link in the description below.
Welcome back. Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news of money. Money today is a dear friend, known him since 1980. I mean, most treasured gift you can have are friends in life. And Blair's been that friend since 1980. We both started off as salesmen. He worked for Xerox. Barrows and I worked for Xerox. I met Blair in a little surf shop in Waikiki. And he was struggling there, and I was struggling trying to sell nylon wallets, but we were learning. And anyway, you can listen to the Rich Dad Radio Show anytime, anywhere on Android, YouTube, and all those things, social media. All of our podcasts are archived at richdadradio.com. We archive them because repetition is one way you learn. You have to do something 63 times for it to lock in. That's the rule. In flight school, we had to practice 63 times. The Blue Angels, the best flying team, 63 times. But in school, you don't repeat. You just make the mistake and move on. So we practice. 63 times is what's called neuroplasticity. It's 21 times 3. When you do something 21 times 3, 63, your whole body changes, your mind changes. But that's what we had to do. So that's why when I was learning how to sell, the reason I was failing, this is in Honolulu, my rich dad very simply said, you're not failing fast enough. So I had to take I volunteered for a nonprofit. And after selling for Xerox from 9 to 5, I walked up the street to this nonprofit and sat in their little booth and dialed for dollars. And my goal was to fail 30 times. I didn't care if I got a yes or a no. I had to dial that phone 30 times. And that's why I can sell today. So I'm a best-selling author. And most people say, but you can't write. I said, doesn't matter. And Rich Dad has been number 1 for 25 years.
Wow. In
personal finance. And of course, all the academics in New York, the publishers say, you know what you're talking about. Because I said, savers are losers, your house is not an asset, and the rich don't work for money. They couldn't hear it because they're academics. Right. So anyway, we're going to be talking more to Blair about summiting. And let's talk about our dear friend Richard Tan, because Richard took Blair and I and Kenny and all the team all over the world because he ran Success Resources. So Richard just thought he could summit Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. What happened to Richard?
Well, Richard, very successful entrepreneur, by the way, and very dear friend.
Sell.
And the boy can definitely sell. So he figured he could sell his way up that mountain. And he struggled, and there's 2 summits, and he got to the lower summit, and we stopped him and said, Richard, you can't go any further. He goes, because like every entrepreneur, bull-headed entrepreneur, I'm going to grit it out. His pulse ox, the oxygen in his blood was so low that it was near fatal. And we said, you're going down now. And he fought, and I went up to him, and I grabbed him, and I said, Richard, look in my eyes. You're going down this mountain. That's it. This mountain's not going away. You can always come back. So he went down, and his shoes were too big. His toes turned black and blue, and I thought that was the end of him. But Richard, being Richard, started training. Because he hadn't trained before. So he's training. He's running triathlons. His wife comes up to me and goes, what did you do to him? I go, nothing. Why? She goes, my God, he had heart problems. The heart problems have gone away. The doctor says he's in better shape. What's the deal? I think he just wants to get to the top of the mountain. And he did. He came back and he crushed it.
Yeah.
Absolutely crushed it. And his life has changed ever since.
Yeah. And that's why academics like my poor dad don't get it. They think if they memorize the right answer and they have this piece of paper that says PhD on it, they're better than everybody. But they really don't have it. And that's my latest book is called Capitalist Manifesto, and I go after the teachers' unions. Because as you know today, the teachers' unions, some of the most evil people on earth, making people wear masks, kids wearing masks in school, and they just follow orders, they do as they're told. They're horrible people, horrible people. My father was head of the teachers' union. Oh my God. And every time I mention that, my family flinches because they're just like my dad. They all think of job security and belonging to the union, which was Marx. Marx says workers of the world unite, and most labor unions are Marxist. So that's why I wrote Capitalist Manifesto, because it's hard to get rich if you're a Marxist.
Yeah, and the only way a system like that can work is by strict compliance.
Yeah.
And so the whole system is not set up to educate. The whole system is set up to get people to comply.
And so I want to mention, I have members, oh, my daughter is an A student. I said, she's screwed because she's just going to follow orders. Do you know what I mean? I'm going. So we didn't have that problem, did we?
No, we were kind of the outliers. We did not follow the orders.
So the reason you want to understand and read the study of Blair's book, Summit, is because he practices what he preaches. He climbed Kilimanjaro 10 times. That's something, So anyway, I'm going to give a little bit of lesson I learned from the academy, Kings Point, U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, one of the 5 federal academies. I got a congressional appointment from Senator Daniel K. Inouye out of Hawaii, Medal of Honor winner in World War II and all that. So the heritage of military is strong in my family. I had 7 uncles fight in World War II. 2 fought against the Japanese, of all things. 1 was captured. So it's part of our culture here. But one of the things I learned at the academy, it's a military school, is there's 2 kinds of leadership. And the most successful leaders inspire up. What that means is they associate with people better than them. And most people who are like middle managers or corporate guys, which the world is filled with, they're tyrants. They lead down. They don't have people above them. So a lot of times I'll meet a small business owner, they have to be the boss. They have to be the best. Or when I used to go into corporate, which I don't do anymore because it's a cesspool of idiots, bunch of demagogues, little tyrants. They don't like it if you're better than them. And so they push down on you. So there's 2 kinds of leadership. There's academic leadership, which pushes down, and military leadership, which inspires up. So if you notice, most of my friends are far better than me. Like, Kenny in real estate, I pale. Taxes, I pale. But most demagogues, these small leaders, they have to be the best, right? That's right.
And you're right. There are 2 very different forms of leadership. I mean, and the idea is if you can, as a leader, if you can push people up to be better than you, that's the true earn the right. You've really earned the right as a leader if you can get other people to actually excel and be better than you based upon what you teach them.
And you look at the guys I hang out with. I know his name is Mud right now, but President Donald Trump. He and I wrote 2 books together. And I don't challenge his leadership. I love being around the guy. He says things he shouldn't say, but other than that, he's a great leader. And this guy Biden can't even speak. I don't know what's going on with this country. But I'm not Republican or Democrat. The issue is leadership.
That's right.
And Biden cannot communicate.
That's right.
He's got dementia, unfortunately. And his buddy, Kamala, oh my God. She's the border czar of the southern border. They haven't seen her yet. And it's only 10 miles from us, right? It's the Mexico border.
Right.
I mean, she could come down here, say hello, and leave, but no, they don't lead.
No, they don't lead.
No, they push down.
That's right.
They don't inspire up. So it's one of the biggest lessons I learned from leadership at Kings Point, the Merchant Marine Academy, is you always want to be around people smarter than you.
Yeah.
But a tyrant can only hang out with people less than them.
That's right.
Any comments on that?
Yeah, well, you see it a lot. It's very ego driven. It's all about me. It's not about developing a team. But if you're going to build a great organization, go to the B-Quadrant, you got to be able to protect the team. You don't have to be nice to them. You don't have to treat them with kid gloves, but you do need, if you want them to stand up, then you got to be able to protect them at some level. You know, one of the things you brought your friend, the general. Remember when the general came and talked to us?
3-star General Jack Bergman, who's now Congressman Jack Bergman.
Exactly. And I asked him, I said, how do you recruit people? I said, you're recruiting young kids that, and putting them in harm's way. They don't make much money. And how does that work? He goes, it's not that difficult. I go, what do you mean? He goes, look, the one thing in common, people want to be part of something bigger than themselves.
Right.
That's number one. Number two, when they come into the Marine Corps, what he said they know somehow or other, even though they're not going to get paid a lot, they're going to end up becoming the best and biggest version of themselves.
Right.
Two of the most powerful sales pitches that you could give anybody if you want them to be on your team.
Right. And when I meet S's, like self-employed people, they're tyrants. They want to be the boss.
Right.
Don't challenge them. You push down. If you criticize them, they cry like babies. They wimp. They suck. Oh, you hurt my feelings, I got no use for them, right. And the world's filled with them. Right, Sarah? Called middle managers. Any comments, Miss Sarah?
No, that's great perspective because I've worked for corporate world before this experience, and it's tough. It's really tough.
Egos, right?
Yeah. And, you get this dream of, I'll be a manager one day. And then you don't want to be a manager.
So I can be like you?
Right. Thank you. Miserable, overworked. No. But this is a great conversation.
Yeah. Because, I respect you, don't I? Mm-hmm. I mean, I would be I'd be face down in my swimming pool without Sarah because I'm cruising around in my own little world. And Sarah leads me around the place. Sometimes, what should I do? Call Sarah. She'll tell you what to do because she'll tell me what to do.
That's right.
But aren't you her boss? No, I'm not. But other guys, especially S's and E's, if they're middle manager, they've got to be the leader, and they suck at it because they push down.
That's right.
They don't inspire up. Comments on that?
Yeah, and that attitude will never get a team up Kilimanjaro.
No.
You can't push down. Think about that. You're faced with altitude. You're faced with weather changes. You're faced with all these problems. And your job is to take that person who's never climbed before, get them to believe in themselves, get them to take one more step so they can realize their dream.
And leadership is really this attitude that you want to be around the best people and inspire the best. So that's why General Bergman, are both lieutenants together on the aircraft carrier off of Vietnam. He comes out a 3-star general, and I got kicked out as a lieutenant. Disciplinary problems. No, one day the people say, "Why? What happened to you?" So with that said, Blair, your book Leadership is fantastic. Summit. One more time, tell us why you should get that book.
Well, Summit Leadership is your roadmap. It's a roadmap. It's your trail guide to get you from wherever you are to whatever the dream is, specifically from the S-Quadrant to the B-Quadrant.
Right. It's called Leadership.
And basically it's 8 steps to get you there. Roadmap. Follow the map.
So the trouble with S's and E's who are managers, they have to be in charge. If you're a B and an I, you don't have to be. And that's why I hang out with people better than me. So with that said, thank you, Blair, for running a book. And then Sarah will come back for the final words, okay? We'll be right back. Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. And you can listen to the Rich Dad Radio program anytime, anywhere on iTunes, Android, and YouTube. And then all our programs are archived at richdadradio.com. We archive them so you can listen to it again because repetition is how we learn. But also if you have friends, business associates and family members who need to hear this, who want to be entrepreneurs, it's a very important show. So our guest today is a dear friend. Like we met in 1980. I mean, we've been friends for all these years. That's priceless. So tell us again, What about their book, Summit Leadership? What can they get from it? Well, tell us about your son, Zach. That's the most important.
Yeah, that's actually very important.
Being a parent's probably the hardest sales job there is.
That's right, man. You talk about climbing mountains. That's the biggest one of all. So Zach's 19 years old, and he's disillusioned with university, doesn't like doing it, drifting, trying to find himself a job, and he responded to an ad for sales. Okay, so get this. He's never sold anything in his life. And what's he doing? Now he's banging on doors, going door to door selling water. Nestle's water, selling it door to door with dispensers. He's making a minimum of 90 calls a day.
Fantastic.
90 calls a day. And he said, Dad, you know everything about sales. Teach me about sales. I go, 2 rules. Ask questions and don't give up. Don't give up. And he's killing it.
All right. Good for him. How old is he?
19 years old.
He's got a beautiful summit ahead.
That's right. That's right.
So final words here. Sarah, what do you want to say about today's show?
Final words. Thank you, Blair, for your time. I appreciate you coming in and talking about leadership. I think, I did a mountain. I did Mount Kinabalu in Borneo.
Wow.
10 years ago.
Really? Why?
A stupid boy convinced me that was fun. It is not fun. But we were talking about it's easier almost going up than coming down. I didn't think I was coming down. I had our poor little guide, Sapingi. He was with me. It took me 4 hours to come down because I was not prepared. So that lesson was important. It's not just getting to the top, it's completing it and getting down too. So that made me remember that trip and how miserable I was and that I will never climb another mountain. So.
And then do I give you as much latitude as you want?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I give you more responsibility than ever.
And that goes to your point about inspiring up. Not only do you share your investments, information with me, the theory behind everything, and we talk about that, but it's really this relationship that you don't find in a lot of other institutions or businesses because it's an equal partnership.
Right.
And you've given
respect.
And you've allowed me to make those big decisions and, make mistakes as long as I'm admitting my mistakes and not that's where we learn. So yes, it's definitely a different relationship than any other that I've had before.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's like I said, when I used to go out to my aircraft, my helicopter and load the guns, and I look at these 19-year-old boys, you go, gentlemen, this might be our last day. I said, well, let's go kill somebody then if we take off. And it's the highest feeling of all. It's so goofy.
And that's leadership.
All right, called Summer Leadership by Blair Singer, taking your team to the top. Thank you all for listening to the Rich Dad Radio Show.